Today's video takes us to what is one of the prettiest areas in Sussex, Ashdown Forest. But we aren't here to take in the views and play poo sticks. Oh no, we are here to look at some of the industrial past. Industry has been a part of Ashdown Forest for hundreds of years. The maps show many sites of the activities of bygone years. Clay, sand and stone were all quarried here, as well as charcoal making and ironworks. In this video though, I'm looking here at New Mill in the area called Crowborough Warren. Before we crack on though, it came to light after I had filmed that the land on which the mill is built may be privately owned, and some people have had altercations with a landowner in the area. On the day that I filmed, I saw no signs and no landowner, and just followed the well-trodden path up the side of the stream. Just keep this in mind if you are visiting. I don't want to upset the landowner, and I certainly don't want any viewers to feel that I've led you into an awkward situation. So, looking at the 1948 OS map, we can see New Mill with its sizable mill pond sitting on a stream that flows down through Ashdown Forest. But look at the modern equivalent and there is not only no mill, but no lake either. So what happened? Well, the estate was bought by a city gent named Edward Frisby Howis around 1800, and he had the mill built and the lake formed by construction of a fairly sizable dam across the stream, a tributary of the River Medway, resulting in a mill pond which had a surface area of around 7 acres, considerably bigger than most other mill ponds in the area. An aqueduct took water from the reservoir and fed the massive water wheel, which then drove the mill to produce flour. The mill itself was an impressive building, 50 feet high with 5 stories. There is also mention that it had an additional steam engine to allow corn to be ground even when there wasn't enough water. As ever, the Victorians were not ones to miss a trick, and the whole area was made into a tourist attraction at some point. A boathouse is marked on the map and postcards were even produced. I'm sure back in 1917 Gladys had been waiting in anticipation for news of her acquaintance's success in obtaining wild primroses. No success yet, but there was still hope. I heard a rumour that the flour for Queen Victoria's wedding cake was produced at this very mill for her marriage to Albert in 1840. I haven't been able to find any hard, contemporary evidence that this was the case. It is reported in multiple places, and this newspaper report from 1937 states that the flour was conveyed to Berkeley Square in London by a Mr. Trayton Bailey, where it was deposited with Mr. Gunther, a confectioner. A quick search finds that a Mr. Gunter, not Gunther, was indeed a confectioner of Berkeley Square in London, and, it seems, created one of the wedding cakes for the royal wedding, so it is entirely feasible that this story is true. What is also true is that there were multiple cakes for the wedding, and apparently the main cake was made by the Royal Kitchen, headed up by someone called John Mordit, who made this cake. So who knows how true the story is, but it's certainly a claim to fame. Sweet treats aside, the mill seems to have led a fairly quiet life, having been converted into a sawmill during its latter years and closing at some point between the wars, falling into disrepair. During the Second World War, the old water wheel, 20 feet in diameter, was taken away for scrap to help the war effort. The old mill pond was the scene of several tragedies over the years and, following a partial collapse of the dam during a storm in the 1950s, was drained and is now covered in trees. I'm currently standing upstream of the dam, so this would have been part of the original lake. The mill buildings were sold, and, it seems, the owners would not allow the local historical society access in the 1960s to examine the remains, presumably concerned about some kind of preservation order being placed upon it. It was demolished and the stone recycled for other buildings. All that is left today is a section of the dam wall, with these arches and the remains of at least one of the sluices. A bit further downstream, and the only remaining packhorse bridge on Ashdown Forest can be found, right on the edge of the publicly accessible access land. This bridge is actually a breach in another large earthwork, which formed part of a 16th century iron furnace. The Historic England listing for the old furnace notes that this may have been a sluice in the original furnace dam. The bridge, which appears to go nowhere, was built in the 19th century to serve the mill. With the stream, a rope swing and lots of places to build dens and have fun, this is a great place to bring the kids. Just be aware that the land upstream of the bridge is not access land. Parking is at Churchill Car Park on the road from King's Standing to Groombridge and Tunbridge Wells.